Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Doug Films, and today we're getting a in-game look at all of the Marvel Rivals Season 2.5 changes, taking all of the patch notes from Season 2.5 and seeing what it looks like in-game. And if you want to see more of this type of content, make sure to hit that like button. Greatly helps out the channel and the video, and subscribe if you're new. We're going for a new goal. But without further ado, let's dive straight into our first category, which is none other than the Vanguards. Now, the first change was done to Captain America, and they adjusted his base health from 600 to 575. You might be wondering, I only have 675 HP, where's this 100 coming from? Well, I still have this seasonal bonus, so we have that extra 100 HP. In Season 2, I would currently have 700 HP, so that's a little bit of a different. Now, the second change is that they increased the delay of shield recovery from 2 seconds to 4 after unleashing Living Legend, and as you can see, it takes a little bit now to get my shield back. So as you can see, shield breaks. I'm on a 4 second cooldown now. It's going to take a little bit to come back. That means your survivability is greatly hindered, so definitely a massive change to Captain America. Then they increased the energy cost of Freedom Charge ultimate ability from 2,800 to 3,100. Again, decreasing his survivability. It's going to be taking you a little bit longer now to get your ultimate. It's not the end of the world for Captain America, but it's so you don't instantly spawn in Captain America, hop on the point last second, pop your ult, and survive forever. It's going to take you a little bit more time to get that ultimate. It's a good change. Was it needed? Yeah, I would say it was definitely needed. Is it going to greatly affect Captain America in any way? Not necessarily, because it isn't the biggest change in ultimate energy costs, so that is something to be aware of. The next change that was made was to Doctor Strange, and they adjusted his damage falloff of his primary attack starting at 10 meters and reducing to 62.5 at 20, to starting at 10 meters and reducing to 80% at 20 meters. So I'm at 10 meters, or let's say I'm at 20 meters. It would originally be 62%. Now it's at 80%, which is a pretty massive change. Now, another thing they did was they removed the range damage falloff of Maelstrom of Madness, which is the E ability. And it's about 8 meters, and if I E, he's getting the 120 damage from 8 meters. And I can be any distance, whether it's 8 meters, 5 meters, 4 meters, and it'll essentially be the same amount of damage I would be at 8 meters, which is kind of crazy. This definitely makes Doctor Strange a lot stronger now, but I do think he's going to be a solid choice if you need that, fill tank, that main tank, just in case. Now moving on, we have Emma Frost, and they increased the range of telepathic pulse from 15.5 meters to 18 meters. So originally, 15 meters, 0.5, shooting normally. Now it's about at 18, which is definitely a huge buff to this character. 18 meters is kind of crazy for... Another thing they did was they decreased the shield value of Mind's Aegis, so it's 400 now. Then they increased the cooldown of Carbon Crush from 5 seconds to 6 seconds. So originally, when you swap to Diamond Form and do Carbon Crush, when you immediately E, you would have enough time to pull off a secondary Carbon Crush. But I'm continuously spamming it right now. You can't really do that anymore. So you can only do one Carbon Crush in the Diamond Form mode now. Then they decreased the hit damage of Crystal Kick from 50 to 40 and decreased the extra damage dealt when propelling the enemies into the wall from 100 to 90. This means you can no longer swap to Diamond Form, pull off 2 basic attacks, then a kick into the wall to one-shot squishies. It will actually leave them on a little bit of HP, so this is a pretty good change. If this was Season 2 patch, they would instantly die here, which is, again, a very solid change to this character, something that was definitely needed. For Groot, they decreased the damage of Vine Strike per hit from 70 to 65. So it's about 4 basic attacks now in Season 2, 0.5 for an elimination on a very squishy character. Then they increased the Iron Wall's cooldown from 8 seconds to 12 once it gets fully destroyed. Now, I can't really show that the best as I'm in the practice range by myself, but a general understanding, it's going to decrease Groot's survivability, I would say, but doesn't necessarily completely nerf the character to the ground that you won't pick it anymore. Probably not. I still think it's a very solid pick even with the changes. Next up, we have Magneto, and he receives somewhat of a buff. They increased the charging speed of rings from 4 seconds a stack to 3 seconds a stack, so that means you're going to be able to right click a lot faster now. So this is normal right click. You can see it is charging up a little bit faster now, which is pretty solid. So you're going to be able to get your full charge right clicks a lot more now, which will definitely increase his damage output overall, probably make him doing a lot more damage. So a very solid change. So next up we have Thor, and this is where things get a little bit interesting. They adjusted his hammer throw ability effect to a standard ability, and they removed the Thor force cost and the universal cooldown. As you can see, when I use my right click, which is the hammer throw, I have infinite. No, I don't. So I right click, it comes back. It's on a 5-second cooldown. It doesn't consume Thor Force, which is a pretty solid change. Without any of the changes I'm going to mention next, very good for this hero. But what they did do is Thor gains 1 Thor Force for each hammer throw enemy hit, which is solid. This is very good to continue combos. Following that, they decreased the shield value gained when consuming Thor Force, adjust the bonus health gained from each Thor Force consumed from 100 to 75, and adjusted the maximum bonus health from 200 to 150. So if I were to sit inside of my bubble, you see I'm at 750. On season 2, I would have 800 HP. But the cool thing about this now is that you can perform Thor combos very easily. Even though they kind of nerfed his damage, he still packs a punch. If I do a right click, left click, and I cancel the animation, immediately swap to my F, which is Awakening Rune, you can easily delete enemies. People say this is a nerf to Thor. I personally believe that this is actually a buff. Despite what anybody says, in my personal opinion, I think this makes Thor a lot better now. You're going to be able to perform a lot of combos. Very good, actually. I think this is a very good change for Thor. So for Hawkeye, they increased his base damage of his arrows from 32 damage to 34, which is absolutely insane. Now, something to be aware of is that in Season 2, it would take 3 headshots to get rid of a Magneto. 2 headshots would put him about this bar here, but if I do 2 headshots, he practically doesn't have a health bar, and I'm pretty sure he's on 1 HP exactly. Kind of crazy. All you have to do is land 2 headshots on a tank like Magneto, and all you have to have is a teammate to do just a little bit of tickle damage, and the Magneto will easily fall over, which is, again, insane to the character. Then they increased the projectile damage of Blast Arrow from 15 to 16 and increased the spell field damage from 32 to 34. So they buffed his explosive shots as well, which is understandable. I think this is a underrated ability to people that are picking up Hawkeye for the first time. You might be not keen to use it, but I think it's a very, very strong ability on Hawkeye that a lot of people don't take advantage of. But the fact that they're buffing the damage means you can easily delete people with your ultimate when you actually use this. Then they increase the maximum focus from 70 to 75 and increase the charging speed when aiming at the enemy from 100 a second to 108 a second, and change the fall off speed from 30 a second to 32 a second, which means you're going to be charging shots a lot faster. And then in theory, when I'm aiming and then I go off, see, it slows down. Like, I'm still at about 40%. I'm still at 40%, which is kind of crazy. Overall, solid changes to Hawkeye. Again, if you're a Hawkeye main, if you don't like Hawkeye, I'm sorry. It's not my fault, alright? Don't blame me. I'm just the messenger. So next, they buffed Hela, which is kind of crazy. They didn't necessarily do anything to her damage or anything like that, but they did give her 2 more shots in her primary attack, which indirectly means she's going to be doing more damage because she has more potential to land more headshots, which is kind of crazy. They love Hela, I guess. NetEase loves Hela a lot. So she has 10 shots now. Super crazy. I don't think it was needed whatsoever, but here we are. Now we moved to the Human Torch, and they reduced the damage of Fire Cluster from 7 per hit to 6 per hit. So this is kind of what it looks like now. About 5 shots for a Magneto, not the end of the world, pretty solid. If I go to a squishier character like Luna Snow up close, 1, 2, 3 left clicks and the Luna's dead. I think it's about the same in Season 2. It might be just 2 shots for Luna if all of your shots land and they're all crit. Then they increase the charge speed of Blazing Blast from 2 seconds to 3 seconds. Blazing Blast is your right click. So I land my right click. You can see it's charging up. It's back. So this means you're not going to be able to spam your right click as much. So this is going to be nerfing your flame wall essentially as well. because you're not going to be able to do it as much, because you're going to have to wait for the charge up if you right click. A pretty solid change to nerf this character. I think it's fine. Then they decreased the shield value gain from Flying Meteor from 70 to 50, and they increased the cooldown from 15 seconds to 20. So originally, when I Flaming Meteor into the ground, I would have about 325 health. Now I have just 300. And then the cooldown is 20 seconds long, which is pretty massive for this hero. I'm not sure if the 20 seconds was needed. I think you could have left it on 15 with just the 50 shield and it would have been fine. But what do I know? Now when it comes to Iron Fist, the biggest thing is that they lowered the Dragon's Defense damage blocked bonus health conversion rate from 1.5 to 1.3. That means when you're blocking, you're going to be getting less health or bonus health. Then they decreased the maximum bonus health converted from damage blocked from 200 to 175. Now, again, I don't think it's the end of the world for Iron Fist. All they're doing is nerfing his survivability a little bit. They're not doing anything about his damage. So he's still going to be outputting a ton of damage. He's just going to have to be a little bit squishier. You're going to have to be really aware of when to use your block and when not to now than what you used to. And then they also changed so you can't really helicopter anymore on Iron Fist. So that's also a plus. I don't think an Iron Fist should be able to helicopter around. So that's very solid. Now, when it comes to Iron Man, they first removed Gamma, so Gamma is no longer a thing. Then they decreased the projectile damage of the third repulsor blast from 50 to 45 and decreased the spill field damage from 60 to 55. So it shoot 1, shoot 2, and then the third shot, super powered, does less damage, not the end of the world. The character still does some pretty solid damage. Now, they also reduced the ammo overdrive maximum bonus health from 100 to 50. I think this is a fine change. I think adding 100 health was a little bit crazy. Keeping it at 50 is okay. When I press C, I'm sitting at 300 now instead of, what, 350? 350 was kind of crazy because it was kind of on par with a character like Wolverine in a way. Next up, we have Namor. And they increased the cooldown of Blessing of the Deep from 15 seconds to 20, which is his survivability. So Blessing of the Deep, 2, 1, 0. Now I'm on a 20-second cooldown, which is a pretty major change. This really decreases his survivability in any scenario. So you're going to have to actually be aware of when to use Blessing of the Deep if you're getting dived or anything like that. Then they extended the range, Horn of Proteus, which is his ultimate ability, his inner circle radius from 3 meters to 3.5 and outer circle radius from 8 meters to 9 meters. They decreased the outer circle radius hit damage from 200 to 180. And as you can see, it's massive now. But the thing is, when you damage boost Namor still with Luna, even if enemies are on the edge, like so, just like usual, any squishies, so 250 HP and below, they will still get one-shotted. If the person has 275 HP and up, they will not be getting one-shotted on the edge. So you can no longer one-shot Luna on the edge of the ult. So that's pretty good because Luna has 275 HP, but that's kind of why you damage boost Namor. I think if they really wanted to nerf Namor, they would nerf the damage boost in general, so he couldn't do this. So it's still going to be a very solid combo to run. Again, not the end of the world for this character, still very solid. Then they adjusted the Monstro spawn damage falloff from starting at 20 meters, reducing to 30% at 40 meters, to starting at 20 meters, reducing to 50% at 40 meters. So this is about 40 meters. As you can see, the damage fall off is pretty significant. I don't think it ruins the character at all. I think it's still going to be a solid character because you're going to still be throwing 2 squids down, and you're still going to be able to pretty easily delete characters if you actually manage to land your your headshots. So moving on to Psylocke, they decreased the retrieval rate damage of winged shurikens from 14 to 12 per hit. So you would right click, make it come back, that now does 12 damage per hit. Then they decreased the invisibility duration of Psychic Stealth from 3 seconds to 2. So originally, you go stealth, you have 3 seconds to move around and think and plan of what you're going to do. Now you have 2 seconds. This is quite a big change in my eyes. 1 second might not seem like a lot, but you have to remember that 1 second could have helped you escape from a fight, maybe make a more conscious decision, Now you only have 2 seconds. You have to have a lot more planning when you actually want to use your invisibility. But the biggest thing is that they decrease the retrieval damage of winged shurikens from 14 to 12. I believe this would pretty much make Luna Snow 1 HP, so you could dash through and get the combo down on the Season 2 client. But now it puts her to about 1 HP instead of doing the full one-shot combo. Overall, not the end of the world for the damage of the winged shurikens, but I do think the decrease of the invisibility is a major change to Psylocke. So moving on, we have Squirrel Girl, and they increase the capacity of Burst Acorn from 10 to 12, so as you can see, you have 12 shots now, which is pretty solid. They decrease the cooldown of Mammal Bond from 12 seconds to 10. This is your E ability, so you eat the acorn, you pick another ability to use, it goes on cooldown. Now it's at a 10-second cooldown rather than 12, so that means you're going to be able to stun more enemies now. Then they optimize the user experience of Squirrel Blockade, Tail Bounce, and Unbeatable Squirrel Tsunami. Now, I'm not really sure what that means, but it feels like it goes faster now. But I could be just placebo. It feels like it goes so much faster now than what it used to. So for Starlord, they increased the energy cost of Galactic Legend Ultimate ability from 3,100 to 3,400. This is a nerf. It's going to take you longer to get your ultimate as Starlord, which was definitely needed. Starlord could build ults extremely fast. Now, they extended the maximum target range from 30 meters to 40. However, they adjusted damage falloff from reducing to 60% at 40 meters to reducing at 75% at 40 meters. So usually, when you're ulting as Starlord, if you're about 30 meters or less and you ulted, you wouldn't be able to have the lock on. Now, if you're playing about at 40 meters, you have the lock on, but you do less damage, which is definitely a major change when it comes to this character. Having the lock on is nice at that 40 meters, but you are risking that extra damage. So it's up to you if you want to use it further or closer away. You probably still want to be using it a little bit closer than 40 meters because you're going to be getting so much less damage. For Storm, they're increasing the damage of a Mega Hurricane ultimate from 150 a second to 160. This is a pretty decent change to Storm. I think a buff to Storm was definitely needed after they kind of butchered her in season, I guess, 1.5 or season 2. Season 1.5, yep. She was pretty much always picked or banned. So having her see the limelight a little bit more is a bit nicer. Moving on, we have Punisher. And what they did was reduce the movement slow rate of Final Judgment, which is his ultimate ability, from 20 to 10% when not firing and 40 to 30% when firing. So I pop my ult and I start running. I'm super fast now. This is kind of crazy. On the Season 2 client, when I got to here without shooting, I was about at 4 seconds. Here I got to about 5 seconds, so that does make sense. Then they increase his magazine capacity for his AR to 40 instead of 30. Then the single hit damage from 18 to 19 and slightly reduce the spread when firing. So now you're going to be able to beam people a lot further away. I feel like if you're running a team composition, a Storm plus Punisher might kind of go crazy because you have the damage boost plus the extra damage. I feel like this combo could be insane. Now we come to our strategist section, and our first one is none other than Joff the Landshark, and they completely reworked this kit. They pretty much removed DPS Joff from the game, which I think is kind of good. Let me explain a little bit. So originally Joff, you would go Joff, and you would go and flank, deal damage to the enemy backline. You have to remember, you're a strategist. You're supposed to heal your team. You're supposed to support your team. When you have a Joff flanking and doing damage to the enemies, you could say that's helping, that's supporting your team because you're dealing with the enemy's backline. But you are supposed to be healing as well. I've seen Joffs not heal their teammates at all and only go for pure DPS. So what they did was they added a new effect to Joyful Splash. Now also deals damage to enemies at 70 a second and can heal allies through other allies and enemies. The damage falloff starts at 20 meters to a maximum of 65 at 40%, reducing healing per second from 150 to 130. So I can be dealing damage and healing teammates at the same exact time. I think this is actually a very solid change. It's a very good change in my opinion. You can also build ult charge up extremely quickly now. Another thing is, the right click, which is the Aqua Burst, to a charge ability of max 3 charges a 3-second per charge. And a new effect is the direct hit now launches enemies up, increasing the spell field damage from 40 to 45. So you would right click, and then just left click and right click. That's all you have to do now. You can still do essentially DPS Jeff, but you also have some extra healing. So you can be dealing damage and then healing at the same time. I think this is like a great change. I don't understand why people would get so upset about it. Mainly because you can't be underground infinitely amount of time. It is what it is. The game is game. I don't have a say. I'm not at NetEase. I can only give you what the patch notes are. Then another thing is that they added a new effect to hide and seek, which is his underground, his swimming. It now has an energy cap of max 120 that drains by 20 a second while submerged and restores 15 a second when not. So yeah, as you can see, I'm above ground. I go underground, I have a charge on the right side. This is how Jeff should be. It's either have this charge or he shouldn't be CC immune underground. It's either or. And one more thing is that they changed how the bubbles work from a one-time healing to healing over time, increasing the healing amount from the previous instance 85 to 120 over 4 seconds, and they reduced the max charge from 6 to 3. This means you can no longer instantly burst heal teammates down. I think it is a good change because you can essentially have a person 1 HP, get them to full HP in a second, which was a little bit annoying. So again, pretty solid change. I think it's still a good change. Jeff is still playable, and he might actually be a very playable character now in a proper meta comp. Next up we have Luna, and they increase her light and dark ice healing amount and damage from 20 per round to 22, which is her primary attack. Oh my god. Wait, she does so much damage. This is a lot of damage. Jeez. So 2 bursts puts Luna to 1 HP, which is kind of crazy. Then they added a new effect to Absolute Zero. It now grants 50 bonus health per enemy hit. So I'm getting dived by an enemy diver. I land a freeze, I have 50 bonus health, so I'm at 325. This is to kind of make you a little bit more survivable against dive compositions. So I guess the devs really hate dive comps. So this is very beneficial to Luna players and very hurtful to dive players. Then they increase the energy cost of Fate of Both Worlds ultimate ability from 4,000 to 5,000. This means it's going to be taking you a little bit longer to get your ultimate charge or your ultimate online. 500 energy charge isn't the end of the world because how much damage she's going to be doing, how much you're going to be healing. I think it's a fine change. So when it comes to Rocket, they removed his infinite ammo, and then they reduced his repair mode direct hit healing amount from 55 to 50. So now it's not instantly getting people back to full HP. It's still a decent amount of healing. It's still very good. I mean, it's not really harmful to the character. You're doing a little bit less healing, like I said, but not the end of the world for this character. It's completely fine still. Now we come to our team up abilities, and we have Chilling Assault. Hawkeye unlocks a new Ice Arrow ability through his team up with Luna Snow. As you can see, my C button, I have the Ice Arrow. It goes through walls and it pierces. Pretty cool, right? It's on a 20-second cooldown. So it's on a 20-second cooldown. I am now going to put no ability cooldown. What is interesting is I have an enemy here. If I go behind a wall, I'm behind 2 walls. It hits him still. This is 2 walls. You can see it going through. It's insane, no? And it freezes them. Because it states, the further the arrow flies, the greater its damage. It stuns any enemies it hits if it strikes before reaching that distance. Again, it can go through multiple walls, which is kind of crazy to me. And I'm on defense and the enemies are pushing the payload. I will literally run out of spawn, instantly pop my C from spawn, and hit someone on the payload. And then when I'm back to the payload itself, it would already be up again, ready to shoot, which is just insane. So the next team up we're looking at is Jeff Nado, which is with Jeff and Storm. And this is kind of what it looks like. After a little bit, you eat up the person. when you spit them back out. It's interesting. Then we have Operation Microchip, which is Black Widow unlocks a new pulse rifle ability through the team up with Punisher. Now, originally, when I was using it, I thought it was very bad. I didn't think the team up was good at all. But the one thing that makes the team up kind of decent is that you can spam it. So that's a good thing. If you couldn't spam this ability or this shot, I don't think it would be that good in comparison to the Hawkeye team up, because you could one-shot people with the Hawkeye team up. So I think it's okay, but because you can spam it, definitely a lot better now. Then we have the Peni team up with Rocket, and you literally create a war zone. Look at this. So one spider nest here, you place another spider nest over there. It's kind of crazy. You just have spider nests everywhere controlling a big area. I feel like Peni is probably going to be a little bit more picked now, mainly because of this change. I think this is a very good change for Peni. This is going to make her a lot more of a nuisance to deal with. So much stuff you have to be looking out for now. And I have gotten spawn killed already in the early access mode by some people by they put one web thing on one spawn door, and then you put the other web thing on the other spawn door, and there's 2 exits to the spawn. That means you have to worry about 2 times the mines when you're trying to leave spawn. Not the most fun experience in my opinion. Then we have the team up with Iron Man, which is Stark Protocol, and Ultron gains a new nano ray ability from his team up with Iron Man. See, Ultron fires an unstoppable nano ray straight ahead that pierces through all characters, delivering massive damage to enemies while simultaneously restoring health to allies. This is the ability that really enables Ultron as a character. Without it, it's kind of hard to do a ton of healing and a ton of damage, so it is a pretty solid ability for this character. And remember, you lose Gamma so you can be able to do this. So it is a big trade-off that they did. The healing is decent, the damage is a little bit lackluster, but you're mainly going to be using it to heal your teammates. Then last but certainly not least, change is for Joff the Land Shark and Venom. So they removed the Venom team up with Spider-Man to add this. As a team up anchor, Venom gains a maximum health increase of 150. Joff gains the healing tendrils ability through his team up with Venom. So you have multiple enemies or allies that are getting shot. I press X, they're all getting healed, and you can heal them up a little bit faster. They get some bonus health after as well if they're full HP. All the other health gets converted, as you can see, bonus health. So a pretty solid change. Nothing too special. They did remove the Venom one-shot team up, or they removed this team up to have the Venom team up, which is kind of crazy in my eyes. But overall, I mean, it definitely mixes up things. It messes things up. It makes the game more interesting. It adds new things, adds new features. So they're trying to keep this game fresh, which I definitely enjoy. I think having this freshness is always something that's very pleasing. Now here's one last section talking about the team-ups, and that's what they removed. They removed the Venom Spider-Man Peni Parker team-up, making it a lot harder for the Spider-Man to function effectively. So I guess these devs really just don't like Dive whatsoever. It's a little sad. They removed the Hawkeye Black Widow team up for the Punisher Black Widow, so that's something to keep in mind. They removed Joff from Luna Snow, so you can no longer have extra damage with Joff because Joff has Sharknado, and they have the symbiote bond healing, whatever you want to call it. They removed infinite ammo, so that Rocket now has to team up with Peni, and Punisher and Black Widow are now teamed up together. But they buffed Punisher, so he's actually pretty good even without the infinite ammo, and I was genuinely surprised about that. Besides that, they tweaked the cooldown of the Fantastic Four team up, and they also changed the mental projection, which is Emma Frost, Magneto, and Psylocke, and they reduced the proportion of damage caused by magnetic reconnaissance and soul resurgence illusions from 30% to 20%. So That's something to be aware of. They reduce the damage essentially when you do the team up ability. And then Atlas Bound, which is the Iron Fist Luna Snow. They decrease the Atlas Bound team up anchor damage boost proportion from 50% to 10%. So as Iron Fist, when you have a Luna, you're going to be doing less damage. That's another thing to keep in mind. And then one more is the Gamma team up, and that's with now just Hulk Namor. They kicked out Iron Man so they can have the Ultron team up. And what they did was increase the Gamma Monstro cooldown from 15 seconds to 20, so they just made it like the other squid. So pretty good, pretty good. I mean, overall, some of these changes are decent. Some of them are a little bit questionable. Nothing major. I wish they would do something different with Wolverine, though. That's really all there is. There wasn't necessarily anything done to any of the other team-ups besides adding the new ones. But anyways, that was the video, giving you a little bit of a better visualization of what's coming in Season 2.5. Hopefully you found it a little bit helpful, entertaining in any way, shape, or form. And if you did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. It really helps out the channel. But regardless, I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next one.